The fifth-generation technology promises faster download speeds and conveniences that most of us have never dreamed of, but will also be blanketed with a new type of radiation called millimetre waves. Health experts are warning about the rising risks with a 5G rollout.
It's not been made clear to the public that 5G won't just be another number and letter on your cell phone. It requires an entirely new infrastructure of thousands of small cellular antennas to be erected throughout cities where it's going to be installed.
What would 5G infrastructure look like? Small cell antennas could be placed as close as every third hydro pole. Scientists from 42 countries are now warning their governments about the emerging health problems associated with wireless radiation, and Canadian doctors and scientists have added their voices.
The most prevalent symptoms include headache, fatigue, decreased ability to concentrate, tinnitus, irritability, and insomnia. Impacts on the heart and the nervous system are also of great concern.
Dr. Rena Bray has been working at the Provincial Environmental Health Clinic for 15 years and seen the number of people suffering adverse effects from electromagnetic exposure rising.
We are concerned that the upcoming introduction of 5G will significantly increase the proximity and extent of exposure to microwave radiation in Ontarians. We predict that the number of people who develop the symptoms I just mentioned will rise in the places where 5G is first installed.
Dr. Magda Havas is internationally recognized for her research on the biological effects of electromagnetic pollution. She said that at high intensities, these waves cause intense heat and pain because sweat glands on the surface of our skin act like mini antennas.
At lower frequencies, scientists are predicting damage to eyes, loss of insect populations which are already declining, antibiotic resistance in bacteria, and physiological effects on the nervous system and on the immune system.
Radiation from radio frequencies is classed in the same category of carcinogens as lead. One advisor to the World Health Organization said there's enough evidence that if they were to re-evaluate radio frequency radiation,
it would be placed in class 1, i.e. a human carcinogen, and governments could not possibly ignore that.
Some say the scientific debate about the health effects of microwave radiation is over, but the question remains, can we afford to take this risk? Medical doctors are requesting delayed deployment until testing can be conducted on the long-term biological effects of 5G technology.
Top world news.
Up to 100 birds have been found dead in a Swedish street, just days after thousands of birds inexplicably dropped out of the sky in the United States. Fireworks, the cold weather, even poisoning have all been blamed for the deaths, but the experts remain baffled. Here's our science correspondent, Julian Rush.
First America, now Sweden. 100 or so jackdaws dead in the snow in the small town of Falköping. It's as if Christmas had come again for aficionados of the mysterious and irrational.
The only sign of damage was where they'd been run over. They looked like they were in some kind of shock. Everywhere you looked, they'd fallen out of trees.
But at the risk of disappointing conspiracy theorists, mass die-offs of birds like this in Louisiana on Monday morning are surprisingly common. The US Geological Survey lists 90 such incidents in America in the last 6 months of last year, 5 involving more than 1,000 birds. Louisiana wildlife officials believe these birds may have been startled from their roost and flew into power lines. And while in Arkansas, scientists are still looking for the cause of the weekend's mystery sudden deaths of thousands of red-winged blackbirds, the apocalyptic isn't top of the list, even here in the Bible Belt.
Some speculate that it was weather-related, others speculated it was perhaps fireworks because of celebration of the New Year that startled the birds, that caused perhaps stress or heart attacks or whatever, and they just fell out of the sky.
Some birds still remain in their woodland roost in BB. In America, red-winged blackbirds are seen as a pest. They eat farmers' seed, and the thick layer of droppings under a roost can harbour a fungus that causes a nasty lung disease.
To go out and do a simple thing like get a paper, sometimes we'll take an umbrella with us. The sky is just black with them, then there's going to be a lot of droppings.
And you just got a target on your head, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly.
Officials say there's no sign the birds have been poisoned, though it is legal to do so as pest control. And ornithologists don't rule out man as the killer. A common way for US farmers to cull flocks is spraying roosting birds in cold weather with water and detergent so they freeze and die. So you can add a bungled cull to the list of speculative causes of death.
Sierra Madre, California. But I find it interesting that they have these things up here and they don't even know if they're safe for people. But I can tell you that they definitely are not safe for our environment, because it is killing bees all over the place over here. And who knows what else. There's one right there. But as we go over here, they have two towers in between each other. As you go over here, you see a lot of dead bees everywhere. All over the ground. There's dead bees all over the ground. A bunch of them. And there's another tower that's about 40 feet away from this first one. And we come here all the time, and I never noticed. I noticed the dead bees and couldn't figure out why they were dying. And then I started hearing more about, how can I get this on there? I started hearing more about these, about the Wi-Fi and the 5G. Look at all these bees. And this is between the two poles. So there's literally another pole right here. There's this one, which has many more plates on it. And then if I zoom around over this way, there's another one right here. So they're like 40 feet away from each other. And then coming down here, there's like bees all over the ground. And this is literally between the two. So I'm just trying to document this video showing what it's doing to the bees and how much more can it be doing to us and our kids and all this stuff. Here goes another bee, just fell on the floor. Wow. Just fell out of the sky, another bee. As I'm filming this. Right in between this, another one. Wow, I can hear them dropping. And they're dropping in between these towers. I mean, look. Look at all these bees everywhere. It's just bees scattered all over the place, dead. Dead from these towers. More bees. More bees over here. So I'm not for this 5G thing that's coming, and I hope that we can change things somehow. All right, God bless. Peace out.
Cell tower going up in your neighborhood? If it's not now, it may soon. Wireless carriers are installing millions of them across the country to enable the new, faster 5G cell phone technology. But tonight, Julie Watts asked the question you're not supposed to ask. Are there legitimate health concerns?
It's keeping John Heestand up at night. This new pole outside his bedroom window where Verizon will soon install a next-generation cell tower, just feet from a school.
This would be a big tower pushing out radiation outside of our bedroom window, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for many years.
It's called a small cell or distributed antenna system, similar to this one in San Francisco. The industry says they're safe. Many in Piedmont aren't convinced.
Our daughter is a cancer survivor.
13-year-old Sophia has been one of many petitioning the city council to deny this cell tower and others.
I'm also a brain cancer survivor, and I am against the cell towers.
I mostly talked about my cancer and how it affected me.
But according to federal law, the city simply can't consider health concerns. It's outlined in this small section of the Telecommunications Act, based on science from 1996.
To turn your phone on or off.
Back when this was the height of technology. But if cities do consider health, the cell companies can sue. So with few legal arguments to deny a cell tower, they're popping up outside bedroom windows and school campuses, despite objections from across the country.
5G can be a tremendous boom to California, but only if it can be put up quickly and easily.
Hayward Assemblymember Bill Quark co-authored legislation that would make it even harder for cities like Piedmont to object to a tower.
You wouldn't have to go through the Planning Commission, through the City Council.
The former NASA scientist says he may resurrect the bill recently vetoed by the governor.
I know scientifically that putting up these cell phone towers is safe.
But the International Association of Firefighters disagrees. They began opposing cell towers on fire stations after firefighters complained of health problems.
These firefighters developed symptoms.
Dr. Gunnar Heuser conducted a pilot study on firefighters at a station with cell towers.
And the symptoms included problem with memory, problem with intermittent confusion, problem with weakness.
Heuser says their brain scans suggest even low-level RF can cause cell damage, and he worries about more vulnerable groups like kids.
So we found abnormal brain function in all of the firefighters we examined.
So, following lobbying by firefighters, Quark and his co-author exempted fire stations from their bill, making them one place cell companies couldn't put a tower. This is the first piece of legislation that I think anyone's aware of where somebody got an exemption because they were concerned about health. Did they tell you at all about the study?
All I know is that when the firefighters ask, you know, I do what they ask me to do.
Because they're strong lobbyists?
Yes.
So if, say, school teachers and parents had a strong lobby and they asked you to pass something that would prevent these from going up in your schools, would you do that?
If I couldn't get the votes any other way.
Firefighter and cancer survivor Tony Stefani notes,
it's not only firefighters, it's the people that live in the general vicinity of these towers.
Current regulations don't take into account continuous low-level exposure from these small cells 24 hours a day.
More of these studies have to be done.
There are 230 scientists from 41 countries who have apparently reviewed more than 2,000 peer-reviewed studies, and they're calling on the World Health Organization to do more studies. They're not convinced that this is safe.
I think doing more studies is always a good thing.
Do you think that maybe you should consider putting a pause on legislation that speeds up these towers until there's definitive evidence that there is no harm?
We can do a lot of studies, and there are people right now, believe it or not, who are sure the world is flat.
In a statement, the wireless industry says it defers to experts when it comes to cell tower safety and says, according to government agencies, the scientific evidence shows no known health risk. But what about the unknown? Well, back in Piedmont, the he stands don't want to wait around to find out.
We're going to get some meters and we're going to measure the microwave radiation today, and then when the cell towers go up, we can measure it and see how dangerous it really is.
And he says if he has to, they'll move.
For my daughter's health, definitely.
Well, Julie reports Piedmont did block some cell towers and is now being sued. Meanwhile, new government research set to be published next month could radically alter the debate. It's expected to link RF radiation to health effects in
life. Officials in BC are trying to figure out why dozens of birds literally dropped from the sky dead. Witnesses say they'd never seen anything like it. And as the CBC's Belle Puri reports, people are sharing their theories about what happened.
The best way I could describe it was kind of like an Alfred Hitchcock weird, literally.
It's hard to believe what happened, except for hints on the ground. It was last Friday at dusk.
All of a sudden we seen birds doing like loop-de-loops and all sorts of, flying around, and literally just turned around and went right into the ground.
Kevin Beach and his pal Sean Phillips were driving when the flock of birds fell out of the sky and hit the pavement. The pair pulled over to investigate.
The birds were twitching and they were in blood spots, like little pools of blood here and there. Like they hit the ground hard. They were dead. So, there was no survivors. They basically all just right into the ground.
Some of the casualties can still be found at a pullout along the busy causeway from the Tsawwassen ferry terminal. The Canadian Wildlife Service confirmed something did happen here. Biologists refer to it as a mortality event. Some of the bird carcasses were collected and sent to an animal health lab for post-mortem analysis. At the nearby bird rehab center, staff think they might know what happened.
Most of the flocking birds at this time of year, because they're getting pushed down by weather, sometimes there's phenomenons where they will not only be stressed but malnourished, and that can also cause them to basically their bodies to shut down and just drop from the sky.
Kevin Beach is inclined to believe there will be a more scientific reason for the Tsawwassen bird kill.
There's a million different speculations on my Facebook. People are thinking anywhere from fermented berries to pesticides. Who knows?
The Facebook post, meanwhile, has had nearly 400 shares.
Yeah, Jeff, have you noticed more of those 5G towers? They're now all over Southern California. But not everyone's happy about it. Tonight, dozens of parents gathered here in Lake Forest to voice their concerns.
It's not just our phones. It's everything. And that scares me. We can't turn it off.
Growing concern tonight among a small but vocal group of Orange County parents who worry 5G technology already in some neighborhoods is dangerous for their families.
I'm horrified, to be honest with you. I don't want a cell tower anywhere near our house. They don't belong in the neighborhoods. They haven't been proven to be safe.
Tonight, dozens of parents gathered to hear just how 5G could affect their families. From a leading expert on wireless technology radiation health effects.
1 to 4G are about connecting people. 5G is a whole different concept. Now every device in our home and every device on our street essentially have a microwave transmitting antenna.
Parents already expressing concern on social media over 5G cell towers like this one in San Juan Capistrano showed up tonight to learn more about 5G's high-frequency wave that will mean they can download a high-def movie in a few minutes and have internet speed 20 times faster than 4G. But Daphne Tackover says for 5G to work, companies need to pack their cell sites closely together.
They're trying to get access to a public rights of way, so whatever infrastructure they will want to put from now onward for their technology, they will be able to do that without any stop on our side.
I'm concerned about the distance to my kids, to the schools in our community, and the overall effects and lack of regulation around it.
And tonight, Tackover showed studies she said were from NASA and from the military that showed a clear connection between radiation and serious illnesses. The FCC has not made that connection at all. So for now, the word is that that is safe, although that's a word that Tackover says the industry experts do not like to use. We did reach out to Verizon. We didn't hear back by deadline. That's the very latest from Lake Forest. Back to you guys in the studio.
Terrified residents of Millville, New Jersey watched as dozens of blackbirds with red-tipped wings fell from the sky for approximately 60 minutes. A local witness stated they'd get up and try and fly, and they were out of control. So they'd crash and fall again. It was just strange. The aftermath of the incident left roughly 80 birds dead in a small neighborhood, covering the streets in blood. Various health, animal, and emergency personnel were called to the scene. According to reports, a local farm that lost $15,000 this year due to crop damage by birds applied a government-approved granular pesticide, thought to be the culprit in the deaths. In early 2011, an abundance of mysterious bird deaths baffled scientists. Arkansas residents removed more than 4,000 red-winged blackbirds from the streets. Later in the week, 500 more dead birds were discovered in Louisiana. A bird conservation director stated, mass bird die-offs can be caused by starvation, storms, disease, pesticides, collision with man-made structures, or human disturbance.
Many of you will have seen on social media a video going around of an incident on Anglesey where numerous starling have been killed, and I mean many starlings. We don't know how it's happened, but I'll show you the scene. So we're just outside Bodedarn here by Llyn Lake, and as you can see on the road here, there's approximately 225 dead starling on the road itself, and many others along the hedge on either side of the road. No starling apparent, no starling apparent in the fields on either side, which is very strange. So we've got officers now from the Animal and Plant Health Agency here, who are going to seize some of these starlings with a view to having them examined for looking for poison, for example, or looking for any other thing that might have killed these animals. So it's happened yesterday evening at about 20 to 4 p.m. So if you have any information, if you might have seen anything happening here, because it's very strange, please let us know.
Dutch scientists have begun a mass autopsy after the sudden death of an estimated 20,000 guillemots off the Dutch coast, hundreds of which washed up on the country's beaches.
The reason they died, I think, is starvation. But the reason for the starvation, we don't know yet. That's why we do this research, to see why are all these birds so emaciated, empty stomachs, tiny livers, no fat, no muscles, and we need to know why this happened.
High winds and stormy conditions could also have affected the birds' feeding patterns, but marine pollution is another possible culprit.
One explanation is that there was a cargo ship that lost a lot of cargo and maybe something poisonous is in there. We don't know. We have to look inside the birds if there's anything in there that poisoned them or that they swallowed and sort of made their stomach no longer work. It could be a disease. That's another possibility. We're looking into that as well. So we take swabs to look for viruses and bacteria.
It always worries you when there are so many dead birds within a couple of weeks. But on the other hand, there are 1.3 million of these birds. So if 5% of them die, you have a lot of dead birds.
An answer to the mystery could take a matter of days or even weeks.
A Team 10 consumer alert tonight. The more we rely on smartphones, the more data we want and the more antennas we need. But at what cost? Workers say they're getting injured working on those antennas, and the constant push for more towers is putting them at risk.
Team 10 troubleshooter Kristen Severin joins us. And Kristen, you talked to a San Diego company with a solution to keeping them safe.
Yeah, there are 600,000 cell phone tower sites in the United States. They're everywhere, on the sides of buildings, streetlights, water tanks. But Team 10 learned thousands of those towers violate federal rules that are supposed to keep workers safe.
It hurts like how.
Benjamin Rivas has worked on cell phone towers for 14 years.
I was dealing with them day in and day out.
He quit after an antenna that should have been powered down was still live.
Physically burned my hand.
The burn is a work injury you can see.
You get burned on the outside, but internally it blisters.
Other problems, he said, caused by the towers aren't as easy to spot.
Depression, and I get headaches from time to time, and mood swings and stuff.
Rivas is one of 250,000 workers a year. An insurance rating agency said gets too close to these antennas. They act as an open microwave and can cause eye damage, sterility, and cognitive damages.
What we're going to go do is I'm going to show you the invisible footprint of these potentially hazardous areas that workers don't see.
Drew Fountain has a $20,000 meter that measures the RF frequencies.
And the amount of power that really comes off a lot of these antennas.
He co-founded RF Check,
Talk about
a San Diego company that tracks where every tower is in the U.S.
There's 22.
An RF frequency over 20% can injure people. Over 100% can burn someone.
We're over the limit for the workers.
Cell phone tower workers, roofers, painters, anyone that comes in contact with the antennas.
I got a 150 reading this morning.
Many tower sites have these signs.
Does anybody even see these?
Signs are dismissed by workers. This doesn't really say anything beyond this point. The law requires that the workers be made aware of these areas before they get near them, and that's not being done today.
Since 1985, the FCC has required workers be made aware of these dangers, but doesn't say how to alert them. The FCC gave notice of a proposed rule change 2 years ago for the cell companies and site owners to figure out the how.
Recognize what these are.
Fountain said that hasn't happened.
Phone providers are looking the other way and not protecting the little guy.
From here to here is the RF danger zone. Fountain wants workers to know about these areas before they show up to any cell phone site. Fountain helped develop RF Check to do just that, the only comprehensive database of every wireless antenna in the nation. They're working with the FCC to get it used across the entire industry. Workers would check the tower sites before any job. RF Check would be paid for like E911. That's the fee we pay for emergency services, so you could see a few cents more on your cell phone bill, but they are still trying to figure out that exact amount. I'm Team 10 troubleshooter Kristen Severance.
All right, Kristen.